All right, part two. Let's try to start where we left off, okay? So, or let's not. I don't remember. I'll get better. Okay. So we're gonna go back to the crime scene, and this is the scene that Darlie says there was a man with a baseball cap, a black shirt, jeans, or dark pants. He was the one that she saw. He was a white male. He was tall, and that's what she saw vaguely. As she's getting up from whatever kind of slumber she's in. I'm not sure, but that's what she's seen. She sees him drop a knife on the floor, and she shows this to police. They tell her not to touch it. Of course, she goes on about she already did touch it. She picked it up. She's worried about that. Because everyone is finding out at this time in the 90s about fingerprints, and not at this time, but this is a big time when that is one of the main things, and so she's kind of freaking out about it. She thought she was going to die, and she did tell her husband, as she's getting driven away in the ambulance, she thinks she's going to die, and so she's just find out who did this. They killed her babies, so anyways, that's what she's thinking. And there was the window in the garage that was cut, and that seemed to be how the intruder got in. She said that he also left through that same way. She didn't see him come in, obviously, but that she did say that that's where he went out of, and that's where the knife was left, in his trail. When they tested the knives in her home, it wasn't concluded, but it was suggested that there could have been fibers on one of the knives from the set that could have matched the fiber glass inside of the wire screen, suggesting that she walked outside of her home where all of her neighbors who she knows and is close with live, and where they could see her, suggesting that someone walked outside of the home with one of the knives from inside from the kitchen, and cut that, and then went back inside, didn't wash the knife off, which was a different knife than the murder weapon, and put it back in where it belonged. And so obviously that testing would have taken a while to do, so that wasn't why she was arrested, but she was arrested anyways, and the main thing here was the blood spatter patterns. There's different ways to look at it. So let's start with from, the police are asking this woman who went through all of this stuff. She's woken up in a rush with her two sons. She's seeing all this. She's trying to go after this person, and also I don't think she realized for a minute that she was cut herself, which is interesting. But she's trying to do all this, and the police are trying to get an answer from her, what happened? Which way did he go? What's going on? What was knocked over? And so from her story to the evidence of the blood droplets, when did they dry, the glass shattering on top of it, the vacuum cleaner laid on top of it, the blood in front of the sink, they drew a conclusion from that. And that was pretty much where it stopped. That's pretty much where their conclusion stopped, in my opinion. This is all my opinion, right? Anyways, so down the road, not far at all, 75 blocks away. So I'm sorry, 75 yards away, 2 houses down. It's a couple blocks away. It was just 75 yards away from the home. There was a bloody sock found. And this took a really long time. I'm sure everyone who's bothering to watch this knows how long it took. I don't think it's even been, it either hasn't been completely tested, because I know that Damon and Devin's blood were found on it, but there doesn't seem to be a lot that's being released to say everything about it, because there was also a bloody fingerprint inside the home on the coffee table that doesn't belong to anyone in the family, and it was a bloody fingerprint, meaning, yeah, it had to be someone who was there during this to have their finger in blood, unless you want to say it was a detective or policeman that came in and, anyways. So there's a lot of things that aren't really being identified and aren't really being thoroughly looked at here. And so it can seem kind of obvious that, yeah, oh, well, she was, there downstairs. She was, running around frantically, not making a lot of sense. She was depressed. I don't know. There's a lot of expectations put on her. And I just want to talk about, just for a second, I know this isn't completely just facts. Yeah, I want to talk about what we're not talking about. Darlie is still, she's bright. She was smart. She was smart. She was very likable. She had her own way of being. It was very, she did care about the life that she put out there. She cared about what she looked like, what she was perceived as. She cared about a lot of superficial things. And I remember being, sorry, it froze up. I remember being a child when I first watched this and just being like, oh my God, you look at her mugshot and she's just bleach blonde and she's like, oh, and her pictures, and she's there at the graveyard spraying silly string and stuff. And yeah, it's weird. It's weird until you grow up and become an adult and you realize, or, it doesn't even take that, but you realize at some point that there's nothing weird about that at all. Nothing. It's actually unique almost to portray these scenes of what is a grieving mother supposed to look like? What are you supposed to look like? It's like the thing you're most afraid of. And she was just this bubbly, outgoing woman, whether times of trouble or not. And I just want to point out, she's still that same lady, she's still that same girl. She hasn't faltered much, but that was a lot of what she was convicted on, was that personality type, what people thought at that time, what you're supposed to look like as a grieving mother. She wasn't on her knees. She wasn't begging God to bring them back. She wasn't asking why. But she is also a woman of infinite wisdom. She is a Capricorn. Birthday, January 4th, 1970. Darlie's a Capricorn. Ruled by Saturn. I just got to bring that up in there. It makes a lot of sense to me that she would be having to endure something like this in her lifetime. But anyways, so all right. So, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on here. Darren himself, he makes some silly comments upon the arrival of police, and he is just like, am I immediately talking about it being because Darlie is just such a beautiful woman and look how gorgeous she is, like kind of insinuating that, it makes sense to him that someone would try to come in. Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, they were having financial problems that no one knew about. I don't know why that's ever even a thing. Newsflash. You ever been a grown-up before? Money, yeah, there's problems with it. But And that was basically the whole thing, the whole prosecution thing. They were having money problems, and that's it. Well, it was Darren who admitted to wanting to plan and actually planning a break-in to that home right before this happened, for the money. He never gave a name. It's interesting though, your two sons died. I don't know. I'm not saying anything like, I don't know. That's not what I'm here for. I'm just trying to put that out there. There's a lot of weird stuff, that came out that people just kind of overlooked, or I don't know. So anyways, there wasn't any blood found in the garage. Detectives said that it looked as if no one had been through there. I'm not sure what that means exactly. Like, the window screen was cut. But also, then what does that suggest? They're suggesting that no intruder came through there. But at the same time, if you're suggesting that, you're suggesting that someone from in the house went out of there, right? Because there was the bloody sock with the two murdered boys' blood on it. So how did that get to where it was? How? I mean, that's such a thing, for me. It bothers me that this wasn't ever brought up, but in like the earlier, I'm still going on about like back in the day, we didn't have all these great videos and stuff, people actually going in depth and everything. But Forensic Files, Peter Thomas, rest in peace, boy. I love you. You trust him, and they left so many things out, and it's like the whole world just saw something that wasn't completely true. Now, it's always a possibility. This is still a possibility, but there is so much crap, man. I'm gonna have to make another video, if not 2 more videos on this, because I am brand new. I think I only get 15 minutes on this, and I just got a lot more to talk about, like the motives, the history with Darren, and the blood analysis, the stage scene, the incredible accusations. I just feel like Darlie has, I'm not trying to make this about what I think, but Darlie has been really, accused of so many things from the beginning that to me are just out there, like she was accused of not wearing her underwear on purpose when she was taken to the hospital, so that it may be considered that someone came in to assault her, to sexually assault her. And she's been damned from her voice, her sweet little voice. That hasn't changed either. Her voice hasn't changed either, her fake voice, her unhappy being a mother. She never showed any sign of being unhappy of being a mother. No one thinks that either. But that was really, she was just really, really attacked for that all over the place, even from that ER nurse, Jody Cotner. Oh man. I don't know. She went on, she just basically demonized her, like described with disgust, like, I asked her if she thought she'd been, raped, and she said it hurt I felt pressure when I woke up. Like, it was like everyone was like trying to fit her into this box of an insane, postpartum, stressed out, selfish, totally just fake, materialistic, pampered, plummeting woman in substantial debt. This woman that she wasn't, and she's still that same woman, and that was never who she was, ever. I'm gonna have to cut this off and go on to part 3. Okay. I'll see you then.